Remember when bread actually tasted like bread? When you could walk into a bakery and smell that warm, yeasty aroma of loaves fresh from the oven? 4 simple ingredients: flour, water, yeast, and salt. That was it. No chemical preservatives, no industrial emulsifiers, no ingredients you couldn't pronounce. Just honest, proper bread that went stale after 2 days because it was real food. Those days feel like a distant memory, don't they? Walk into any supermarket today and you'll find entire aisles dedicated to what they're calling bread. Loaves that stay soft for weeks. Slices so uniform they look like they've been stamped out by machines. Products wrapped in plastic that promise whole-grain goodness and artisan quality. But pick up one of those packages and read the ingredient list. Go on, actually read it. You'll find over 20 ingredients. Preservatives to extend shelf life. Emulsifiers to create that unnaturally soft texture. Enzymes that have nothing to do with traditional bread making, and enough added sugar to make your morning toast taste more like cake. The British bread industry has quietly transformed our daily staple into an ultra-processed product designed for profit, not nutrition. They've convinced us that bread should last a fortnight without going stale, that it should be impossibly soft and pillowy, that we need added vitamins because they've stripped out all the natural goodness in the first place. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 6 UK bread brands that are selling you chemistry experiments wrapped in nostalgic packaging. And because we're not just here to scare you, we'll reveal 2 brands that still understand what real bread should be. Will your daily loaf make the list, or have you been feeding your family something that barely qualifies as food? Let's find out. Coming in at number 6, we have Kingsmill, the brand that's been in British households since 1800. Nearly 200 years of heritage. The packaging shows golden wheat fields and promises 50-50, giving you the best of both white and wholemeal. Sounds wholesome, doesn't it? But here's what they don't advertise quite so prominently. Kingsmill 50-50 contains calcium propionate, a preservative that extends shelf life but has been linked to irritability and sleep disturbances in children. Multiple studies have raised concerns, yet it remains perfectly legal in UK bread production. One mother described her experience online. She'd been buying Kingsmill for years. Her son had persistent behavioural issues at school. On a hunch, she switched to preservative-free bread. Within 2 weeks, his teachers noticed the difference. But the preservatives are just the beginning. Kingsmill also uses palm oil in several of their ranges. Palm oil production is one of the leading causes of rainforest destruction. Orangutans, tigers, and countless other species are losing their habitats so that your bread can have a slightly longer shelf life and a softer crumb. And then there's the sugar content. Kingsmill 50-50 contains over 3 grams of sugar per 100 grams. That's more sugar than some biscuits. You're starting your day with what's essentially a sweet treat disguised as a health food. At number 5, we have Warburtons, the family bakery, the brand that positions itself as the trustworthy British choice. Their advertising shows happy families gathered around the breakfast table. The Warburtons family themselves appear in the adverts, faces you're meant to trust. But that family connection doesn't extend to the ingredient list. Warburton's medium sliced white contains mono and diglycerides of fatty acids. These are emulsifiers that create that characteristic soft, fluffy texture. But here's what concerns me. These emulsifiers can be derived from animal fats, and Warburtons doesn't clearly specify the source. For families following vegetarian or halal diets, this lack of transparency is deeply problematic. But even if you're not concerned about the source, you should be concerned about what these emulsifiers do to your gut health. Emerging research suggests that certain food emulsifiers can disrupt the gut microbiome, potentially contributing to inflammation and metabolic issues. And then there's the Chorleywood bread process. Warburtons, like most major UK bread manufacturers, uses this high-speed industrial method. It was developed in the 1960s to make bread production faster and cheaper. Traditional bread takes hours to prove and develop flavor. Chorleywood bread is mixed at high speed with extra yeast, additional water, and a cocktail of enzymes and improvers. The entire process takes about 3.5 hours from flour to packaged loaf. What you gain in speed and softness, you lose in digestibility and nutritional value. Many people who struggle with bloating and digestive discomfort from supermarket bread find they have no issues with traditionally made sourdough. That's not a coincidence. Number 4 is Hovis, best of both. The brand name itself is steeped in British history. Hovis has been around since 1886. The famous advert with the boy pushing his bike up the cobbled hill in Shaftesbury became part of our cultural memory. Surely a brand with that much heritage wouldn't compromise on quality. But they have. Hovis Best of Both contains calcium propionate, just like Kingsmill. It contains emulsifiers. It contains added gluten to improve the texture. And here's the truly frustrating part. The wholemeal flour they use has been so heavily processed that they have to add back synthetic vitamins. Thiamine, niacin, iron, calcium. All added because the industrial milling process stripped them out in the first place. You're not getting the natural nutrition of whole grain. You're getting white flour with brown bits and a vitamin supplement mixed in. One nutritionist put it bluntly: if your bread needs added vitamins, it's because the manufacturer destroyed the natural ones. Real wholemeal bread doesn't need fortification. It's already nutritionally complete. But Hovis, like most major manufacturers, prioritizes shelf life and texture over genuine nutrition. That soft, long-lasting loaf comes at a cost, and you're the one paying it. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave the number 4 in the comments below just to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed to UK Food Exposed, please consider subscribing and ringing that bell. Your support is what allows us to keep creating content that exposes the truth about what we're really eating. Now, let's get back to it. At number 3, we have Allinson's, the brand that markets itself as the baker's choice. The packaging features rustic imagery and promises quality ingredients. They offer white, wholemeal, and seeded varieties, all positioned as premium options compared to the budget supermarket brands. But premium pricing doesn't guarantee premium ingredients. Allinson's wholemeal medium sliced contains vegetable oil. Not olive oil, not butter, just vegetable oil. That's code for the cheapest oil available, which is typically rapeseed or palm oil. Both are heavily processed. Both are inflammatory when consumed in excess. And both have absolutely no place in traditional bread making. Bread doesn't need added oil. The only reason it's there is to extend shelf life and create a softer texture that consumers have been conditioned to expect. But here's what really bothers me about Allinson's: the portion sizes. Each slice is cut thinner than most other brands. At first glance, this seems like a minor detail, but it's actually a clever bit of packaging psychology. Thinner slices mean more slices per loaf. More slices per loaf means the price per slice looks more competitive, but you're getting less bread overall, and because the slices are thinner, they're more likely to tear when you spread anything on them. So you end up using 2 slices where 1 proper slice would have done. You're not saving money, you're being manipulated into thinking you are. Number 2 is Roberts, the Welsh bakery brand that's expanded across the UK. They position themselves as a regional alternative to the big national brands. The packaging emphasizes their Welsh heritage. They sponsor local events. They create the impression of a small, family-run operation that cares about quality. But Roberts is owned by the same parent company as Kingsmill. It's all the same industrial bread production, just with different regional branding. Roberts' thick sliced white contains exactly the same problematic ingredients as the brands we've already discussed: calcium propionate, emulsifiers, added sugar, vegetable oil. But what makes Roberts particularly frustrating is the deception. They're not a small Welsh bakery lovingly crafting loaves by hand. They're a mass production facility using the Chorleywood process and industrial ingredients, then wrapping it all in heritage branding to justify a higher price point. Multiple customers have reported that Robert's bread, despite being marketed as thick-sliced, is actually no thicker than standard sliced bread from other brands. One person measured the slices from 3 different brands. Roberts came in at exactly the same thickness as Warburtons medium. That's not thick-sliced, that's standard-sliced with misleading labeling. When a brand is willing to deceive you about something as simple as slice thickness, what else are they being dishonest about? And here we are. Number 1, the absolute worst offender, the brand that represents everything wrong with modern British bread. It's Tesco Everyday Value White Bread. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Of course, the budget option is the worst. But this isn't just about being cheap. This is about selling a product so far removed from real bread that calling it bread feels generous. Tesco. Everyday Value contains over 15 ingredients for a product that should require 4. The first ingredient is wheat flour, but not wholemeal flour. Refined white flour that's had all the fiber, vitamins and minerals stripped out. Then comes water, then yeast. So far, so traditional. But then it all falls apart. Vegetable oil, sugar, salt in quantities far higher than necessary, emulsifiers including mono and diglycerides of fatty acids and sodium stearoyl 2 lactylate, flour treatment agent, preservatives, and added vitamins to replace what was removed during processing. But here's what really earns Tesco Everyday Value the number 1 spot: the texture. Multiple customers describe it as spongy, almost foam-like. It doesn't tear when you pull it. It compresses and springs back. That's not bread. That's an industrial product engineered to be as cheap as possible while still technically qualifying as bread. One reviewer said they tried to make toast with it. The bread didn't toast. It just dried out and became brittle, like cardboard. Real bread toasts. It develops a golden crust and a slightly chewy interior. This product just dehydrates. And the smell. Fresh bread should smell like, well, bread. Yeasty, slightly sweet, comforting. Tesco. Everyday Value smells faintly chemical. That's the preservatives and emulsifiers. That's what happens when you prioritize shelf life over everything else. This bread can sit in your cupboard for over a week without showing any signs of mold. That should concern you. Real bread goes stale. Real bread develops mold if left too long. That's what real food does. When your bread lasts longer than your vegetables, something is fundamentally wrong. So, those are the 6 brands to avoid. But we promised you something more than just warnings. We promised alternatives. 2 brands that actually deliver on the promise of real bread without the chemical nasties. First, we have Bertinet Bakery. This brand represents what bread should be. Richard Bertinet is a French baker who's been making proper bread in Bath since 2005. His supermarket range uses traditional methods and genuine ingredients. The ingredient list for Bertinet white sourdough reads like this: white wheat flour, water, salt, yeast. That's it. 4 ingredients. No preservatives, no emulsifiers, no added sugar or oil, just bread. The texture is completely different from industrial loaves. It has a proper crust that crackles when you break it. The interior has an open, irregular crumb structure. It tastes like bread used to taste, slightly tangy from the sourdough culture, complex flavor that develops as you chew, and yes, it goes stale after a few days. That's not a flaw. That's proof it's real food. You can revive it by sprinkling with water and warming in the oven. Or you can make breadcrumbs or croutons. That's what people did before we decided bread should last a fortnight. Bertinet is more expensive than Tesco Everyday Value, but you're paying for actual quality. You're paying for ingredients that nourish, rather than just fill. You're paying for bread that doesn't require a chemistry degree to understand the label. And in second place, we have the Authentic Bread Company. This brand specifically caters to people who've realized that supermarket bread doesn't agree with them. They use organic flour. They use traditional long fermentation methods. And crucially, they're completely transparent about their ingredients and process. Their organic stone-ground wholemeal contains organic wholemeal flour, water, sea salt and yeast, nothing else. What makes the Authentic Bread Company particularly worth supporting is their commitment to genuine wholemeal. They use stone-ground flour, which preserves more of the wheat germ and bran than industrial roller milling. The result is bread with genuine fiber content, natural vitamins and minerals, and a nutty, satisfying flavor that makes you realize how bland industrial wholemeal has become. Multiple customers report that despite struggling with bloating and discomfort from standard supermarket bread, they have no issues with the Authentic Bread Company. That's the difference real ingredients and proper fermentation make. Yes, both Bertinet and the Authentic Bread Company cost more than the brands on our avoid list. But here's what you need to understand. You're not comparing like with like. Industrial bread is cheap because it's made from the cheapest possible ingredients using the fastest possible methods. Real bread costs more because it requires time, skill, and quality ingredients. But you eat less of it because it's more satisfying. And you're actually nourishing your body rather than just filling it with ultra-processed filler. So, there you have it. 6 brands filling British kitchens with chemistry experiments that barely qualify as bread. And 2 brands showing us what bread could be if companies prioritized health over profit margins. The uncomfortable truth is this. The bread industry has spent decades conditioning us to accept less. They've convinced us that bread should be impossibly soft, unnaturally white, and last for weeks. They've made us forget what real bread tastes like, what it should cost, how it should make us feel. But you know better now. You know that preservatives linked to behavioral issues in children have no place in your family's breakfast. You know that emulsifiers disrupting your gut health aren't worth the soft texture. You know that bread requiring 15 ingredients and added vitamins is fundamentally broken. The next time you're standing in that supermarket aisle reaching for the familiar package with the comforting branding, remember this: you deserve better. Your family deserves better. Real bread still exists. You just need to choose it. What are your thoughts? Have you noticed the quality decline in supermarket bread? Have you tried any of the brands we've mentioned today? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, please subscribe to UK Food Exposed and ring that bell so you don't miss when we tackle other products. Because this is just the beginning. Thank you for watching, and remember, demand real food.